All right. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you, Father God, for just giving us another opportunity to speak to your people, Father God. I pray right now, Father God, that this, whatever we bring, whatever you would have us bring, Father God, that is enlightening to someone, it brings healing to someone, and it also brings knowledge and positivity to someone, Father God, to whoever may be listening. I thank you for each and every one of these ladies that has volunteered to participate in this, Father God. And we're just going to have a good time in you. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen.
All right. So turn your cameras off for a brief second while I log on. And then when you hear me talking again, saying, hey, we're live, then you can hit your camera back on. Hello, Facebook land. It is your girl, your sister, your friend, your auntie, Erica Brown. I am here tonight with Voice It Podcast. Voice It Podcast, you can see us every last Friday of the month. We are here every last Friday of the month talking about topics on community, relationships, fun, just having a good time. Hopefully we bring some positivity to your home this Friday evening. Tonight I have two of my favorite people in the world that's going to join us on our podcast tonight. We have a crazy topic tonight. So our topic is basically girl talk. We're just going to talk about things that we're going to basically put you in on our phone calls when we're on the phone with our homegirls. So we're going to put you in that phone call today. So like us, join us, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to let each lady introduce themselves. We're going to start with Miss Sharice Young. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
My name is Sharice Young. I'm from Gainesville, Florida. Excuse me.
Come on, Miss Jackson.
I'm Shanae Jackson, and I'm the little cousin that was a little sister she never wanted.
Yes.
Touche.
Shade. But it's true. It is true. So tonight, ladies, so I'm just going to throw out some, we're going to do some rapid fire, like bam, 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 bam. So in a relationship, how do you handle an argument? How did you handle an argument when you were 20 versus now how you handle one in your 40s? Oh, the eyes got big. Well, I'll start off for you guys.
Yeah, because
I can say in my 20s, I had to win. I had to win the argument. Like we were not going, I don't care if my last word was I was going to have the last word in the argument. Versus in my 40s, I don't like to argue. I like to have a discussion on what we disagree about. And then once I am heard, I can agree to disagree. But I have to be heard first. Because if you don't act like you don't want to hear me, might be an argument. Go ahead, Sharice, tell us how you handle an argument.
when I was in my 20s, I was a hothead. So I was all up in somebody's face when I was 20.
Oh, come
versus
on now.
now, if I don't feel that I'm heard, then I try to say, well, okay, well, maybe I need to go back and rephrase what I said or have
That's
a different conversation, but still meant what I said the first time.
mhm.
But just try to make sure that my side was heard, but more now it is I'm open to not being right.
Mm. Come
In
on,
my
Miss Jackson. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
in my 20s, I was a hothead. In my 40s, I'm still a hothead. Um,
Lord.
it just takes a lot more to
We
get me
need to
there.
pray.
In my 20s, the way an argument was gonna go is if I'm arguing, you okay? If I'm quiet, that's because I want to bloop bloop. In
Hmm.
my 40s, I always talk and ask questions. So to me, we start with nobody means any harm. There is no offense taken. I want to talk through it and try to see if we can come to some consensus or to agree to disagree. Now, in that, with me trying to unpack whatever it is for us to come to some consensus, if we're not getting an understanding or we getting a level or we like feel disrespected, it still could go left. I can take ownership a lot more, especially at this age. I'm not gonna always get it right. And then sometimes I'll say, hey, let's step away from this for a minute in order for me to ensure that I'm not responding out of emotion, but actually being a great deal more practical. So I do argue a lot less.
Okay, that's good. That's good. You both of you guys actually said keywords that I want to tap into. One of them is what Shanae just said was ownership. How how do you take accountability and ownership now versus you did when you were in your 20s? Because see, when I was 20, I wasn't owning up to nothing. I was right about everything and I was never wrong. And I
That
realized that it
that sounds
takes,
accurate.
oh yeah, that sounds accurate. I realized that it takes a lot of emotional intelligence in order to take ownership. So when you see people not willing to take ownership of not necessarily being wrong, just not being wholeheartedly right in the situation of how you're handling it. So when you are not emotionally able to handle that, that shows a lot of immaturity. So what that told me was when I can't take ownership of the things that I have done, or not necessarily vindictively, however, it still hurts someone's feelings. When I can't take ownership of what I've said or what I've done, that's a lot of emotional intelligence that I had to grow to understand that regardless of if I didn't feel like I hurt someone's feelings or I didn't feel like an apology was justified, it doesn't negate the fact that what the person's experience was in the situation. So I had to learn to take accountability of the person's feelings in the situation and not just my own. So how did you handle that in your 20s versus one of you all, it doesn't matter, in your 20s versus your 40s ownership?
I think it evolved for me just as I got older. So when I was young, I was mad at everything and everybody. So therefore, it wasn't time to take ownership because I was too busy being mad. And so when you're listening with mad ears, you can't even take in what people are trying to say or even look at the point of view that they come from. And so
Yes.
now I start with me. I'm going to do a self-assessment with me first. And I'm going to start to take ownership and see how we can compromise or to see how I might have offended somebody. But the other side of that is if I'm starting with me first and I'm gonna give it my all and we still not able to come to consensus, now I'm going to the other side and then it gets but I really work hard at that. I don't like to be wrong. So that's the reason I try to make sure that I don't misspeak. I listen more and then I'm always repeating and asking, questions to make sure that I understood what was happening or I understood what the intention was. So that way it minimizes how much ownership I got to take or how much of self-assessment. I'm also realizing as you heal more and you get older, you take a lot of things a lot better. And as you heal and take, you're better able to take ownership. I think a lot of times we do a lot of stuff because it's out of trauma. And so our reactions are sometimes seem other people like, well, wait a minute, where did that come from? And not realizing that there's other trauma. I had a situation today where my significant other called me a big ass crybaby, and I'm still in my feelings about it. And it's just because we're crying, that is minimized as you as a weakness. And so my deal is most people don't ever see me emotional because I'm not really emotional. So for you to say it, you didn't mean any harm, but for me, it was triggering. And so understanding that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Miss Sharice?
Now, what was that question again?
How do you take ownership?
Sinead threw me off.
Hey, she threw you way off.
Well,
how do you take ownership now in your 40s versus when you did in your 20s?
I think that I see the people more than I do myself. Like with my kids, my younger kids are a little bit more emotional than my older kids. So I kind of listen more before I respond. And then if I feel like I may have said something too harshly, I think about, well, let me go back and have that conversation the way that I really meant it. Because like Shanae said, sometimes certain things that trigger you from trauma that you've had from your past makes you respond in a different way. And so for me, like I was telling you last night, sometimes I use that one-on-one time with my kids to express what I really meant, even though I might have said something out of anger the first time. But I have to go back and think about and consider how they may have felt when I said what I said, out of a place that is normal for me, which is to be on the defense. So love covers a whole lot of things. When you love and you want to do change, when you want to do things a different way than you were raised or a different way that you were taught, and reprogram yourself in the society that we live in now, you have to change how you do stuff in order to get what the goal is done.
Yes, I agree. So if we could tell Mr. G, you are very emotional. Whether they believe it or not, Shanae is very emotional.
Yeah,
most people don't see that side of her, but I have seen it on more than one occasion. So that's the part of you that loves hard.
Yeah.
That part, that's the emotional part of you that loves hard. I'm sorry, y'all, I digressed for a second. That was a family moment. See how I let y'all in on our phone calls? I'm letting you all in the sister circle.
Right.
And I will want to interject and say, and I think that's the part. So as I'm triggered, it's because it's like, hey, I let you in. You see a side of me that most people don't. And it's like, oh, and I now realize as I've calmed down, they didn't mean any harm. They don't understand why that's such a big deal, because no one really gets in to be able to see that side.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me this. How do you handle, and now this is in a relationship, how do you handle someone telling you a lie now versus when you did when you were 20?
I think I was a fool when I was 20, because I chose to believe that everybody is telling me the truth until they show me that they're lying. So now I kind of just look at it, and when I picked up the lie, it's kind of like, okay, well, they gonna lie, so I can't change them, but I definitely can change me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a
Yeah.
relationship lies as a deal breaker for me. And I'm so adamant about it because I'm a person that can give you a safe space to tell the truth. And so
Yes.
I don't weaponize, like if I'm with a mate and they tell me something, and I'm a bit more open-minded. So let me be clear. I know this is very Christian, so this might not be appropriate to say. I understand that monogamy is a Christian and a Western ideal. I'm a bit more open-minded than that. So because I am more open-minded than that, you're gonna get a whole lot further with me than by telling me the truth. I must also be honest. I got a little Jezebel spirit. So instead of me
Oh,
acting on the
Lord.
Jezebel spirit, I think
Help
I
us,
lived
Jesus.
that through my mates. So I like them kind that's for the streets. So I
Oh,
should be more open-minded. We just gonna be honest. I believe we single until we married.
Help us, Lord. Help us, Lord. Help us,
So,
Lord.
but my position on that is I believe that we're single till we're married. So we're married, that's a monogamous relationship. So I'm one that when you come and you're honest with me, it's like, hey, we can talk through it, we can gain an understanding. I also do understand that most time men lie in relationships. And in the Western culture, we don't realize that even when men jump from woman to woman, that's a trauma response, just like it would be
Oh
for
yeah.
women. They're looking for a connection.
Oh
And so
yeah.
understanding that a man who jumps from woman to woman or deals with a lot of women is just a little boy that needs to heal. And so
Yes.
for
yeah.
me, because I can see it very differently, there's a lot of things that we can navigate that you might not be able to navigate with another person. So there is no reason to lie. And I'm so adamant about it, like even with my children. That was one of the biggest things for me, because to me, if you tell a lie, it's a forethought. Either you know you did something you wasn't supposed to do, or you didn't do something you know that you should have done. So the fact that you lied about it means you knew that what you did or did not do was wrong. So to me, it just makes it worse. Where it is something that and especially in a relationship, I believe it's us against the world. How can it be us against the world if I can't trust you?
Mhm. I got you. All right. I feel, me personally, I at this age, I think lying is so disappointing. Now,
Yeah.
in my younger years, there was me basically probably in your face telling you, why are you lying? Get out my face telling lies. But at this age, it's so disappointing because if you are doing everything that you're supposed to be doing in a situation, and you have determined whatever title it is that you all have, if it's a friendship, if it's a relationship, if it's, you're moving to XYZ, each step should tell you where you should be at in the other half of your life. So if you're saying we're just friends, the other half of your life, you have no reason to lie about it because you're just a friend. If you're saying we're in a relationship, the other half of your life should be, okay, this has to go because I need to focus on this. And if you're moving towards marriage, this is your sole focus, period. So there shouldn't be a reason for a lie. And I feel like any truth, I've heard this from men where they could not be honest with their wives and how they were feeling about their wives or their situation with their wives, whether it's she spent too much money, whether it's she's put on too much weight, whether it's he doesn't like this, that, or the third, or whatever. But I think especially in a marriage, that should be the most open and honest part that you be able to do. If there is an issue, if it's sex, whatever it is, you should be open and honest and be open about what you need, what you want, and what you don't want. And
Right.
I feel like there shouldn't even be a lie. But I feel like people are placed in boxes because of someone else's trauma. Like you can't tell her, baby, you put on 20 pounds and I don't really like it.
I wish it
Because
would.
she has her
I
own
wish somebody would.
In all honesty, he's a man, or she's. I've seen older couples tell their husbands, hey, listen, I'm gonna need you to back away from that table. that belly getting too big.
And also it's a way that you approach it. So like even with me, I
Yeah.
know when I was having a conversation of putting on weight, like I was ready to go get on the table and get this little tummy tucked. And
Yes.
so their position was that not that they disagree with me, but they was like, okay, but there's a way to do it naturally. And then my response was, it's easy for you to say because you're not the person that got to do the work. And so their response was, well, no, I'll go do it with you. So in order for us to go to the gym, it's something that we're doing together. And I think that's another reason it's so important to be honest, because also too, I've noticed
Yes.
like with a lot of men, they're programmed with, oh, I don't want to hurt her feelings. But then what happens
Yes.
is they start to move away, and then you're
Yes.
thinking that they're hiding something, and it's just they don't want to hurt your feelings. And then also
Yes.
too, they could be feeling the kind of way, and they start to resent you. And then when they start to resent you, they start going to look to be fulfilled in other places when it's something that we could have navigated together. Just had you been
Right.
honest.
Absolutely. But I think if you can create a space where people can feel like they can be honest, and
Yeah.
that's the key. And a
Yeah.
lot of times there's not a safe space where people feel like they can actually be honest with you about how they're feeling. I don't care. Some people maybe they need to lose weight. It might be somebody else say, hey, babe, I need you to gain some weight. Like, I want you a little bit thicker than you are. I like you a little bit thicker. There's nothing wrong with that. I feel
Thicker
like
than a
there,
Snicker.
say it again.
Thicker than a Snicker.
See, I'm done. So, but I think that, and I use weight, a little loosely, but a lot of times there is, because men are visual people, visually, he likes what he likes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So visually, he likes what he likes. So as women, I'm not saying cater or tailor your body to any person. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you're in a marriage, have a comfortable space where somebody can feel like they can tell you the truth.
Right.
And that's what it is. And I think that we can handle, we won't have to handle lies because we'll dispel the lies when someone has a safe space to tell the truth. Yes.
I think
So,
though we don't realize that, especially till you get older. Mind you, I've been married twice.
yeah.
You don't realize that your mate should be your best friend. And so a lot of times people, and Michelle Obama just said it, recently best, people look toward the wedding, they look toward being pretty, telling people the trips and things that they're going, but nobody wants to talk about the ugly side of marriage. But that's the most important side of the marriage,
Right.
is that ugly, part. And so
Yes.
the deal is there's so many people that when they want to tell a secret to, or they want to confide in, they have to do it outside of the marriage because their mate is not their best friend.
Yeah.
And
Right.
as best friends, that we talk about conversations, we'll be real with each other. It's many
Yeah.
conversations, especially with Erica Child. You been had a conversation with her, you be so mad, but she still gonna tell you what she wants you to know, and it's out of love. And you realize that part of it. And so you have to come back and understand, like even where it comes from is from a place of love. And so a lot of times, because the foundation of the marriage, and I'm not talking about all the other frilly stuff, just that basic emotional and spiritual foundation don't be there.
Mm-hmm. Miss Young, you got something to add to that?
Well, I just agree with what she said about the best friend part, because like I always tell my husband, because I like to clown. So and I always tell him, hey, there's some truth in that joke. When I'm telling these jokes, it's some truth in it now. So, and I just feel like you have to be, I think in our culture, the word vulnerable is in our generation is like I'm not gonna be vulnerable with you. But I think culturally, a lot of people that are over 40 years old have a problem with being vulnerable. But if you have somebody you're married to, that's your best friend, why you can't be vulnerable? Because like
Because you were
Shanae
taught
said,
not to.
if you're not vulnerable, or in a safe space with the person that you're married to, or in a relationship with, then who else you gonna be vulnerable with? I mean, because while you on the phone telling your friend about, girl, let me tell you, this is how I feel about this situation, when you should be telling him in the first place, because you got to live with this person.
That's what I'm
So you
saying. No,
should
we
all,
saying the same thing. That's what I
yeah.
was saying.
So I mean, and that's just how, and I'm just speaking from from experience. Like I just feel like there is always a way, even if it's not, even if vulnerability is not a part of something that you want to tap into, being in a place where you could let your hair down with your man just like you can your friend. If there is something that you feel like is too hard, like taking a trip, sitting on the beach and having a conversation and saying, or trying to find that way, never giving up, trying to find a way of getting across what you're trying to, the goal that you're trying to reach in that sense.
Yeah, we were saying the same
Shit.
thing. That's what I was saying. Your
Yeah.
mate should be your best
I'm on.
friend.
Yes.
That's what I was
So
saying. A lot of times we don't go to our mate should be our best friend, and we don't go to them first. You hear a lot of times people can even complain about that they're not as close to their mate as they should be. They don't exhibit that vulnerability like they should, and then they'll go out. Either mate will be going out looking for what they're not getting in the marriage when the work starts there.
Right.
yes. So how do you build, because this, what you all are speaking about is trust. Because this is where the trust somewhere was broken or never truly defined.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't necessarily have to be broken in order for it to not be defined. So
Yeah.
how, for me, trust building is through intimacy.
Right.
So that, and when I say intimacy, I don't mean sex. When I say intimacy, I mean spending time, spending quality time, understanding the person's, habits, understanding their demeanor, understanding when they're angry, when they don't say I'm angry, understanding when they're hurt, when they don't say I'm hurt,
Right.
understanding what mannerisms that comes with all the things, understanding when they're happy and they don't say I'm happy, because men don't say I'm so happy with you.
Right.
They don't say that. They show happiness through cuddles. They show happiness through I was in the store today and I just bought you something. They show happy. Those are the things where they show that they're happy in a relationship with you. So you have to understand, how do I get to a point of trusting so I can be vulnerable with this individual?
Yeah.
How do you get to that point?
Right.
That's a question. Y'all thank you.
Letting your guard down. Because we are so guarded most of the time. Letting your guard down.
Okay.
And I think the way that you do that is, so even too, I never realized this until the current relationship that I am in. I start, you know how most people start showing the best parts of themselves on that honeymoon phase. He actually pointed out, I was telling him all the things that would happen if he crossed me. Like, if you do this, I'm gonna drag you. I'm gonna do this. And I didn't realize that. And I think over time, a lot of men, they're so busy enjoying the goodness of you, like they take the goodness for you as like a weakness. And so then when they start to see that other side, they be all in shock. Or like I tell people, they think it's a game. I'm kind, but I'm not weak. And I think I got comfortable with letting my guard down when I was very clear with him, like, this is the other side of me. And if you want to stick around to enjoy the goodness of me, just know that this comes with it. And they were willing to stick around. So for me, it was easy to kind of let that guard down. I think a lot of times too, even when you brought up the point about intimacy, a lot of times intimacy in relationships is not where it needs to be, not because the person doesn't want it to be, because a person has put on a mask or a facade in order to get their mate. And that goes for men and women.
Yeah.
You see women that allow a lot of stuff to slide because the end goal is to get the man. And you see the man not showing the ugly sides of him, because when he does find that woman, he has such a fear of losing her. And so what happens is people get connected, but they're not them true selves. And so when you're not your true self, you stay guarded. It's very difficult to let your guard down because you didn't enter the relationship as your true self.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I think just knowing you all for probably all of my life, and and understanding each one, and I'm speaking to you all, but I'm also speaking to people out there in the Facebook world. Understanding that, like, we are, what you see is what you get.
Right.
It's not You don't have to dig through it. You don't have to search for it. What you see is what you get. And I can tell you, Shanae, if he would have just watched your Facebook page, you knew who you was.
Well, it's so funny. Let me tell you about that. See, even when we talk, because I ask real deep questions. And one of the questions I asked is, what is something about me that's different than what you thought? He was like, you're not as mean as I thought you was. In my mind. And so it is, I say, so, in your mind, you was going to get me and tame me. You didn't realize I didn't need to be tamed. And so like, that's our ongoing joke. Everybody sees
it's like you. It's funny you just say that, because this whole, now I can say, I was just somebody just told me today, you're not an alpha. I am actually. I'm very much an alpha female, and so is Sharice, and so is Shanae. So the misconception is that men who are alpha men cannot have an alpha female.
Yeah.
And that is a lie.
Yeah, because my husband is an alpha male.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and when I say that's a lie, it's because there is not a female that can be tamed. Now, we may not be controlled, but we can be tamed.
Indeed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It can happen. So, and I think that because we lead with directness, the misconception is we cannot submit.
Right.
And that is not true.
That's
that
what
is
I was just
so
thinking too.
far from the truth. That is so far from the truth. I mean, I am one of those people that I pride myself because I am a servant at heart. So for me to serve someone is easy.
Right.
Indeed.
That's easy. That's not like, oh my God, I gotta fix somebody's plate. I like it.
Me
so
too.
That's nothing. That's nothing.
And you know what? It is funny because that when you just said, I just thought about that. Because like even when I'm can't have my way, and you know how we do the little, oh, I'm not talking, and I'm not talking. Even in my not talking and not being mad or angry, I still fix that plate every time. Still fix that plate because I said this is not about me being in my feelings right now, because this is what I've been doing. So this is what I have to keep doing. So even though sometimes I don't feel like doing certain things, that part of me is something that I don't let over, like the submission part of me. Now, I'm just saying that fixing a plate is submission, but what I'm saying is those things that put me in my spiritual place of where I need to be with my husband can't override my emotions and how I feel about something, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
You know?
And I think in relationships, what people fail to realize is that feminine part of us is what drives him to you.
Right.
So we may be alpha females, but we can only pull you with our femininity because you're a man. You're not looking for a masculine woman. If you're a man, you're looking for a feminine woman. So we may, and it's crazy because I was at work and one of my coworkers, I was walking, I normally walk the perimeter outside, and I had on this long skirt that day. And soon as I started walking, I was like, this is a bad idea. I probably shouldn't have walked today because my skirt was so long. I had to walk with it held up. So I walked with my skirt held up, and she said, I saw you walking with a dress the other day. And she said, you just look so graceful. And I said, listen, I love everything about being a woman. When I say everything, every aspect about being a woman. And I pride myself on understanding that I am a female and I love all of my femininity. And I said, sometimes it takes us as women to delve into that feminine side of us because it exudes something to your man. It exudes something to your mate. When I had someone tell me the other day, I think people at my job think I'm gay because I wear pants and shirts all the time. I said, they might. I don't know. I said, but when are you going to start wearing some dresses? Like exude some femininity. And this is not about whether someone is straight or gay or not. It's just about your femininity that's inside of you. And it makes you feel like a woman. It makes
And
you
I also want to
feel
say
like a
too,
woman.
it is
Go ahead.
we have to understand the energy that comes with our mates. So for a prime example, look, I'm hood. We know this. I could be as gangster as you want to,
One,
and
two, three. All
the,
three of us.
so my man can tell you like there's like this really really soft and easy going side. But I'm the one. I'll use the example like if he get in a fight, I'm jumping on somebody back by mine, like in that particular way. But when it exudes like femininity, when we can just sit around and be lackadaisical. He might be on one side of the couch and I might be on the other side of the couch. But then there's parts of my femininity that he has been the person to bring out. So for example, I'm a person that does not do flowers. I'm very, very analytical. So to me, you give me flowers and flowers die. But when he started giving me flowers, and they were just because flowers, not because he was in trouble, not because something happened. I mean, one day I was like, boy, it's been a rough day. I just need a hug. When he came and brought me the hug, he surprised me with flowers. So because of the intention, it was the biggest thing. And so my daughter, who always got commentary, she's like, "Oh, you ain't never liked flowers, but you like flowers now because he bought them." I was
Yep,
like, "Oh
sure
yeah."
do.
I was
Yeah.
one. I'm not for Valentine's Day. You need to be showing me that you love me every day of the year. Well, this year, Valentine's was a huge deal because he does show me that he loves me every day of the year. And so I also realized that too. I see a lot of debates about men saying they don't want a masculine woman. What I've come up with is no woman wants to be a masculine woman. A lot of times we show those qualities out of survival. And like I tell
Yes.
people now, I never
Yeah.
want to be known as a strong woman again. Don't do that to me.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
I want
Right.
most women, it's just that this is just the caveat to what Shanae just said. Most women want to be the most feminine woman she can. When we are masculine, it is strictly out of survival. We have
Right.
had to tailor our minds to take care of ourselves.
Right.
Period.
Yep.
We have been in situations that we could not trust. And because of those situations that we could not trust, we had to take charge. Bottom
Right.
line,
Yep.
bottom line, that's it. We had to take
Yep.
charge. You want to add something, Sharice?
No, I was just agreeing what you said. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
It doesn't,
spot on.
we don't want to be that. That's just something that life had presented itself to us. We want to, listen, I want to take this hat and give it to you, and you can have it. And I'm good. But until that happens, I feel like I have to take the reins of my life and transition. Now, what I have seen is a lot of alpha women, when they get with certain men, they help build their character and who they are. They help build who they are. So where she was bad when she was by herself, she a bad mama jamma when she get with him.
Right.
And it's like they just build greatly. But you
Right.
have to have a mate that is not fearful of your strength.
Right.
Looks at it as she is gonna make me great.
Yeah.
She's getting ready to take this law firm that I got, and we get ready to have 50 law firms. You know, she's getting ready to take. It's like we take because we're incubators. So we take something, we let it grow and we let it grow and we throw it back out there, and it works for us because that's who we are. I told someone today, he need a wife because he needs some help because he trying to do all this stuff on his own and he not gonna do it on his own. Because sometimes that's what wives do. That's what we're built to do. We're incubators.
Not
So
sometimes, most of the time. And so
Mhm.
I want to very much so. I tell people like, I'm big on history. So like even for example, when you hear like Dred Scott and the Dred Scott decision, it was his
yes,
wife that went to the courthouse first and tried to file the paperwork in order to be recognized as citizens. They turned her away because she was a woman. Frederick Douglass, another known person throughout history. Frederick Douglass was a slave. It was his girlfriend that was a free woman that actually helped him to attain his freedom. And so what has happened is we've now been programmed to be in competition within our communities. And so I want people to know, understand that because we don't know our history and actually where we came from. And the way that you know and understand that is life comes from the womb. So at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, life starts in the womb. So the best man that you're going to be is when you see your mate as your partner. And if you ever notice in any of the scenarios where a man did not see their mate as the partner, even if they made it financially, there was a lot of stuff that was missing emotionally. There was a lot of, you see a lot of turmoil. And so
Right.
understanding too, and submission doesn't mean that a woman walks behind. It actually means that they walk side by side. And I think we're getting into the debate like with Rihanna. It's so interesting, like how they did a magazine cover. She happened to be out front because it's her time in the spotlight. And then her mate was there with her, behind her with the baby. And how we turned that and took it left. Rihanna and A$AP Rocky are happy. They're not in the mix of all of those particular things, but because we don't see women in that strength that they exude and how they help to build, I think is one of the disconnects that we're actually having. Because you hear so many men, well, I don't need a woman telling me what to do. We're nurturing by nature. So why is it? And if anything we're going to tell you, it's going to benefit us. So we're going to lead
Period.
the right
It's going to
direction.
benefit the relationship. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. All right. I'm going to move past relationships just a minute and ask the question, how do you love yourself now versus when you were 20?
I don't play by me
Mm.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And that's
think
not even,
that
that's with friendship, everything.
I think that for me at 20 is I was a frustrated person, mad all the time, angry. Everything got on my nerves. But how I take care of myself is I give myself permission to take care of me. Um, and when I say take care of me, even if it's that space that I need, like to myself. Prime example, this morning, my husband was, my daughter went on YouTube and made some concoction in her room. And he was like, well, did you ask her what that was? And I was like, hey, no, not right now. And I don't want to talk to, I need my headspace time. So I prepare myself. Like I get up 30 minutes before it's time for me to get anybody else up because I need time for myself to be a better version of myself in the morning time so I can run my house the way it needs to be run. And everybody is taken care of, but I take care of me first. And I take care of me by taking care of me in my mental space.
Yeah.
If I wake up and it's 2 hours before, I know I'm supposed to get up. I know I'm supposed to be praying about something. So that's what I do. So I give myself permission to say, hey, you might need to go on you a trip because you're getting frustrated and aggravated, or just something as simple as going to the store by myself. I use garage sales as a way to spend time. It's something that, we like to do. So sometimes I go by myself because I need that particular time to myself. And it allows me to I feel that it makes me productive, and I feel like it makes me a happier me. So I give myself permission to do certain things and say, hey, it's okay that you're not having a good day. It's okay that you don't want to work just to pay bills, you know? So
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. Miss Shanae?
I don't play by me at this day and age. When I was younger, and I realized that I had friendships that weren't yoked the same. And so I was always the giving friend. I was the friend everybody who stayed at my house, everybody drove my car, give you the shirt off my back. And what happened was, in my mind, when you're giving and being that person, people automatically reciprocate. And you learn that they don't. And that the more you grow to learn and love you. When I was younger, I had people that I felt were rooting for me, but I realized they were only rooting for me as long as they were doing better than I was. And as I grew and evolved and learned me more, it realized that I had to let some of those relationships go. And it's so interesting, people, especially in the day and age of social media, try to make it seem like it's so easy to let relationships go when literally it is a loss for you as well. I don't care how a person has treated you, it's still a loss. So even having to love yourself enough to let toxic relationships go. And not just relationships as in romantic relationships, but friendships, even with family. You can't choose your family, but you can choose how you deal and how you relate. And understanding that part. And even as you love yourself enough to choose how you deal and relate, you don't have to take things personally. You don't have to, you know, and it's a lot of things. I'm like you, I was really angry. I wore a lot of my hurt on my shoulders. It was so big, it actually weighed me down. And then
Right.
as I started to love me more, I realized that my relationships became more quality. I realized that I was more motivated at work. I was more motivated as a parent. And so it started to project a lot. And I will say a lot of the love for me grew from actually being a parent. And the more I leaned into that and
Right.
understanding what I didn't have as a child and was very deliberate about with my children, my self-love actually started to increase as well.
Right.
Yes.
And
Yes.
to piggyback off what you said about the social media and the loss, I remember um, I had to make a decision to let a friendship go, and I told, and somebody in my family asked me why do I feel so strong about it, and I said because at this point I'm not just what we call cutting off. I'm mourning that relationship because I know I have to let it go
Mhm.
because it's not beneficial for me. Like you said, being a giver, you being all of these things to somebody that don't reciprocate what you're giving them. Not that we so much expect that from them, but you expect a certain level of respect and not that sit back and watch to see as long as you're not going further than them, then they're okay with the mediocre you. But as soon as you want to step outside and do some things, then you start feeling like you got to be secretive about things because you sitting back watching them watching you.
Mhm.
So that's I just wanted to add that.
Awesome. I listen, I agree with about everything that you guys just said. I think for me in my 20s, my love was more egotistical and not for my love for myself was more kind of egotistical and not really true, genuine love. But when I start to love like who I was, it didn't matter like where I was in life. I just loved me. And on my and I think I shared with you guys on my 47th birthday, it's like it was like God transitioning me to an overabundance of loving me. And sometimes it's hard for people to receive a person who walks that
Yeah,
she loves herself
right,
because they instantly want to judge who you are.
right,
She thinks she this, she thinks she that, she think who she thinks she is, all those, whatever else and everything else but the child of God that they want to call you. But
right.
it's a true love, and it's much just like Sharice just said, spending that quality time with yourself. Like social media has a wide presence of people saying I love myself, but it's attached to Gucci bags and hair bundles and being flued out, and I just got my new body and I just got my this, that, and the third. And those things are material things. Those are not loving yourself.
Right.
Loving yourself is being able to spend time with yourself
Yeah.
and loving yourself and caring for yourself and understanding the things that you need and the things that you don't need. And for me, that's spending time with God. So I do get up extra early so I can sit in the presence of God, so I can just sit there and hear what He has for me. And sometimes until you're able to do that, the love is not so genuine. It's projected as it is to other people, but inwardly it's not. And if you don't, I don't care what you do to the outside of the man. If that inside of that person is not healed, it's going to show on the outside eventually.
I
Eventually.
want to
So
piggyback off
so
of
for
that.
me,
Oh,
oh, go ahead, Shanae.
so I just wanted to piggyback off of even 2 points. One is a lot of times we project the time alone with yourself is so important. I don't like, and the reason for that is because that's how you get rid of all of the noise. So even
Yes.
too, with so many self-help books, with so many nice quotes that come, even being if you read the Bible, follow God in those particular times, you don't really know and understand how you love, how you feel until you've gotten rid of all of the noise. And that means
Yeah.
sometimes riding in the car with no sound. That
Yep.
means sitting in a house where it's just quiet. that's when you really know, that's when I really started to know, understand when I evolved, when I could ride in the car without music and not feel the need to fill a void or get on the phone and make a phone call.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
We fill ourselves up with so much other stuff. We're very distracted. We're very busy all the
Right.
time. Like we busy ourselves, so we don't even realize that there is a void or something that needs to be filled. I also realize when you really do love yourself in a manner, you become unmoved. So when somebody's saying, oh, she thinks she all this and she all that, well, I don't like her. Well, I don't like her way. You really don't feel a kind of way. Some people say, well, oh, I'm unbothered, but you took the time to even speak on being unbothered. When
Right.
you really get to that point, you don't even have your body don't even react. It ain't even like, oh,
No,
okay. And people look at you like, wait a minute, like you just become so unmoved.
yes,
Right.
absolutely.
And I also I just lost my train of thought of what I was
I'm
just
sorry.
I was finna piggyback off of what Shanae said, and then I just lost my train of
That's
thought.
okay.
But yeah.
That's okay. We'll come back to you. I'm actually going to interject on something that you said. Mourning the relationship. And when you were speaking of mourning a relationship of a friendship that was dissolving. And I think that we don't take the time to understand how that feels because we let anger take over.
Yeah.
And when anger takes over, it's a sense of hate when you see the person.
Right. Right. Right.
When you
Right.
when you have had the time to mourn the relationship, there's no hate. We're just done.
Right.
You know, there's no hate for you. I don't wish you bad. I don't wish anything on you. I'm just done. And I think sometimes it takes the emotionally intelligent person. And I keep using that term because I want my people to understand what emotional intelligence is. It is a sense of growth. It is being able to handle your emotions and put them in check.
Right.
And you don't
So
get to be the victim. So the issue
Right.
is a lot of times we want to be the martyr. And it's not on purpose. That's the nature of people. And so I always tell people, whether it's a romantic relationship or even a friendship, if I'm talking to somebody and they can tell me everything that somebody did wrong in a relationship or the friendship, and they never tell me where they might have done things differently or maneuvered differently, it always is a pause and a red flag for me.
Right.
Even
absolutely.
in any relationship I had to mourn, I can go back and tell you where there might have been things that I did differently, or even I attracted that energy at that time because I was an unhealed person. So another person was attracted to the unhealed part of me. Even
Right.
if it's just
Yes.
that I attracted that
And
person
when you
because of that,
say
I own that.
and when you say attract, one thing, even what people just don't understand about self-care and taking care of yourself. Like what Erica said about the 20 and the 40. Okay, when you were 20, you did things differently than you do now, 40 or older, attracting what you want. I just told my daughter, 11 years old, you're going to keep on still hanging around the same type of people until you learn how to self-love yourself first.
I'm
And
so
then you
glad
can
you cleaned
attract.
that up. I'm so glad
And
you
you,
cleaned that up while we was live, because that's not exactly how you told it, but thank you.
yeah, I cleaned it up.
See, I'm letting y'all in on the girl talk.
Right.
Look, y'all see, I
So,
ain't said many cuss words.
right. So I'm just saying, you got to love yourself first. And even in relationships, you attract what you want. Okay, so and y'all know, in my 20s, I was that girl out there doing what I was big enough to do, and I attracted exactly what I wanted.
Mhm.
And when I began to change, to mature, and to grow, and to love myself, then I started attracting what I wanted. But it had, and I just told Erica this a while ago, maybe the other day.
Mhm.
Once it's a conversation that you got to have with you and God about that being renewed within yourself. And I had to say, at one point in my life, in order for me to get over me and the lack of self love that I had for myself, I need you to heal me. Because if He heal me, then everything around me can be healed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All
Let's
right.
be clear, that healing can be ugly, and a lot of
But it's
times we don't want to face
necessary.
that.
It's
Yeah,
necessary though. It's
right.
so necessary
I didn't
because
say I didn't cry through the process, Shanae.
Yeah,
oh
I
yeah,
just said what
oh
to
yeah,
prepare for.
you look, you too. It's
definitely.
ugly. I do want people to know that because, like, even it's such an ugly process, and that's the reason it's so easy to say, "Oh, you need to heal," but that's why so many people don't do it. It is.
Well,
Right.
I
It
can tell.
is.
I'll tell you this. It's ugly for certain people, especially with those of us who didn't want to admit that it was anything wrong with us.
Right.
But for the woman who tells herself everything is wrong with her, when God starts to tell her that things are right with her, it's an easier process for her.
Right.
Yeah. But for us, wasn't nothing wrong with us.
Right.
But when
What's
he
wrong
started
with
Everybody
showing
you?
else was the
us that
problem.
it
Right.
was,
What's wrong
yeah,
with you? Ain't nothing
yeah,
wrong with me.
there ain't nothing wrong with me. Yes. So tell me this, how would you tell a woman that's in her 40's, maybe have gone through some trauma, maybe a divorce, maybe a loss somewhere throughout her life, how would you tell her how to love herself, how to get to the point where she's loving herself through all of this? Now, we've all gone through divorce, some of us more than once.
Shut up.
I'm happily
See,
divorced a couple
I
times.
said us.
What that girl said, why you gotta be putting my business out there?
And look, I'm happily divorced twice, so I'm just gonna say that.
Mm.
But in hindsight, that's not a plan. When you get married,
Right.
you're not planning to get divorced. It
Right,
just
right,
starts to transpire and things happen.
right,
So that because I remember an older lady once told me a divorce is the biggest failure of a woman
mm,
because she feels like she has failed at something. Now, you may say it's done and I don't want that anymore, but still deep down inside, there's a failure of where did I go wrong? Even if the question is, why didn't I choose a better mate? That could have been a question.
right,
Because then you start to look at your inner self and say, where did I go wrong in choosing a mate?
right,
So it may not necessarily be that you failed at the relationship. Someone it may be that, but it could be also I didn't make a good choice. Where did I go wrong in making this choice? Now I can say that each one of us, we grew through the process.
right,
We grew through the process. We understood it was necessary. We understood that God was transitioning us for something else that He had for us. But everyone doesn't have that understanding. And
right.
then it goes back to someone starting to feel there is some guilt or not loving themselves. So, how would you tell a woman that's later in age who's gone through some trauma and some loss? How does she get back to loving herself?
I would say it's a process and it's a day-to-day process. People don't even realize how much writing stuff down is very important for you because especially if you're a visual person. Because if you sit down and you write down some things, okay, this is what I want to do. These are some things that I like and I don't like. I'll just say, because what the thought that I had earlier that I lost the thought, it was every year, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but what I do is when the year comes, I say, okay, Sharice, what is it that you want to do for you this year?
Mhm.
So that is my consistency in loving me. And
Mhm.
it could be as something as simple as I want to change the way I get my eyebrows waxed, or I want to try, some a different way. Look at me now. I done cut all my hair off because I wanted to, because that's what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Um, so that's the way I felt like I needed to do something for myself. I would say you have to challenge yourself and conquer your fears, because
Mhm.
fear is the reason why we don't do a lot of things in our life, because we allow the enemy, what I told you the other day, a lonely place is a devil's playground
Playground.
to play.
Yep.
And because when you sit down and you're contemplating on doing things for yourself, the devil gonna always tell you what you can't do.
Mhm.
But I always remind God, you are bigger than
Yes.
this.
Yes.
So I would tell her that to trust herself and conquer her fears.
Mhm.
Write those things down.
Yes.
The little things that she can do, and challenge herself to do things better. Give herself
Yeah.
a goal to reach. And I say people don't realize they're writing goals down. If what the Bible say, write the vision, make it plain.
That's right,
It
Habakkuk.
it works.
Mhm.
It works.
Yeah, absolutely. Shanae, what
I
would you
would tell
say to that woman?
I would tell them to start with the root and start with the why. And when I say that, what I mean is a lot of times we don't even understand why we make a lot of decisions because we don't acknowledge or understand what
Mhm.
has been indoctrinated, what we have seen, what we have experienced. I know for
Mhm.
me, I'm very clear. I understand that a lot of the men, it ain't been that many, but the men that I dated typically were very similar to my dad. My dad was an amazing daddy, not so great as a husband, but he was a great daddy.
Mhm.
So for me, I was could be willing to look past a lot of stuff in relationships because I could see that my dad was such a phenomenal father. But also too, looking at why you do things. I got 3 kids with 3 different daddies. And my deal was, boy, if they one deadbeat, I ain't gonna stick around again.
Mhm.
Stick around and have another child. That
Mhm.
came from my own trauma because my mom was a martyr and she allowed the love, the toxic love that she had for my daddy to destroy her. And that's how I saw it as a child. So for me, I'm not gonna stick around and let a man destroy me. I'm gonna be out. And so, like, knowing and understanding that sometimes too, we make sure that we don't follow the same pattern, but then it
Right.
becomes to another extreme. And so helping
Mhm.
people to know and understand that. And not even just that, when we talk about, I remember me when I went to nursing school, I never wanted to do that. People kept saying, well, it's just a good way to take care of your kids. It's just a good way to this. So understanding that a lot of times why we make decisions, the reason that we feel like the married, not being married, divorce is a failure because that's what they program into us. They
Mhm.
program into us that we're supposed to be married. That's how we gauge our success. We're
Mhm.
supposed to have children. Even I'm a
Mhm.
person with children, I see the value in people who don't have children because
Me
there's so
too.
much more they can pour out into the world. Because
Right.
when you're a parent, there's so much that has to consume you
Yeah.
in order to
Yeah.
be that parent. And so I want us to get, and even too, you don't hear men if they find they don't have kids, people questioning that. But when a woman gets a certain age, well, why you ain't got no kids? Well, why you ain't got no grandkids? It's like
Mhm.
we've let society dictate what our life should be, and we all don't
Mhm.
want to follow that mold. And so,
Mhm.
because we allow society to dictate what our life should be, we start to make decisions from that. We start to
Mhm.
make, and there are decisions that never were good decisions for us, but we're trying to make people think like it's like we're checking off a grocery list. So we're trying to check all these things off on the grocery list, and we're so busy
Mhm.
filling the grocery list nobody's even bothering to see if we're actually okay. Because if
Mhm.
you got that degree, if you got that car, you got that husband and child, people naturally assume that you were okay. And oftentimes you're not.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I would agree. I have two things I want to say. Definitely, if you all are watching us, we're gonna go over tonight because we got a lot more conversation to cover. But I just wanted to add that disclaimer. We normally close at 9 o'clock, but I'm not closing at 9 o'clock tonight because I have a few things, and I feel like there is a woman out there that really needs to hear this. So just to add on what you guys just said, and I remember sitting, and this is just my testimony. I remember sitting with God and really asking him the design that he had for my life. And uh, we don't do that as human beings. I'm not even speaking of a culture. I mean, this is human beings because just like Shanae said, we're so trained that we're supposed to do things XYZ way. And if we haven't did this by 20 and this by 30 and this by 40, that we are not in the know or we're not in the Joneses. We're not a part of the Joneses. We're not a part of the in crowd if we don't have this, that, and the third. Or even if we, all our kids aren't from the same person, or we just didn't marry one time, and all of those things. But I remember sitting with God, and he told me that my life will be different. And it's not going to be that way. And he gave me glimpses of my childhood and showed me how different I was. And in those times with him showing me that, he dispelled everything about having children, being married. He dispelled everything about education. He dispelled everything about how he designed my life, because it was not going to go with the norm.
Right.
And if people can sit with God and understand the design and the vision that he has for your life, it's probably not going to fit the world's design either.
Yeah.
But that's where you can be healed from depression and anxiety and all those other things that causes people to make them feel like they're not a part of something. And I learned a long time ago, I'm a part of the King's kingdom. So if you want to circle me with a clique, that's my clique. Because that is what tells me, that's what makes me comfortable in who I am. That's what makes me comfortable with my life. That's what makes me love who I am, because I don't look at my life as a deficit and someone else's life as a profit. I don't look at that. I look at my life how God sees me. And that's what I want. Whoever's out there listening, whoever needs to have an understanding that they don't feel like they're getting older, they feel like they're missing something in life, they feel like they needed something that they didn't have that somebody else has. They don't have no husband, now all their friends married, or they don't have no kids, now all their friends got kids, and they don't have no education, and their friends got education. Quit. Just stop. Take some time and get to know what God has designed for your life. Not your sister them life, not your auntie life, not your mama life, not your homegirl life, yours. And when you sit with God and he gives you the plan that he's written out for your life gonna get so much easier.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna be looking at other people's stuff. You're just gonna be looking at what he has for you. And if he got a house for you, then that's your house. Quit looking at Ray and Shay them house. That's their house. Focus on what he has for you.
Yep.
So I say that to say the woman who's in her 40s, who needs to find herself, spend some time with God and he'll tell you who you are. He'll tell you how much he loves you. He will tell you the design that he has for your life. I went back to school at 40-some years old, didn't even have an AA degree. But he told me, this is the plan that I got for you. I fought it. I was like, I ain't doing this. I am not going back to school to sit in no class with no pimply face 18-year-old. Those are my exact words to God. I ain't doing it. But he had a different plan for my life. And he gave me the push to go through. So even when it's fearful, do it anyway.
Yeah.
Do it anyway. Fight the fears. God gives us two kinds of fear. A fear to understand when something is wrong, and a fear to reverence him. Anything else outside of that is the enemy.
Yep.
Any fear outside of that is the enemy. If it's not one or two fears, that's it. He gives us fear, let us know, hey, something wrong. I need you to pay attention. Something is wrong. I need you to pay attention. That's a fear. The other one is, oh, understand me. And anything else out of that. And I'm telling you, if you hear me, anyone out there listening to me, anything outside of that is the enemy, and you have the power to cast it down with your mouth.
Yeah.
Also understanding that if you don't work and try to guide what is guided for your life's gonna be filled with distractions. Your life's gonna be filled with battles that you're not even equipped to fight, because you're equipped to fight certain battles, but because you're not transitioning into the purpose that you have, you're gonna be faced And I always tell people that it was at those times when you wonder, well, why my finances won't come together, why my love life won't come together, why my career won't come together. And it's literally because you're distracted and you're fighting a battle you're not even supposed to be fighting, because you're supposed to be over here doing something else.
Yes.
And once you understand that part and start to transition in that, the things will start to fall in place without you even trying. And so it's
Right.
not that life will be easy, but it'll be easier. Like a lot of those extra battles you have, you don't have.
No,
And you become
absolutely.
equipped.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
because
remember. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Rick.
people feel like they have a certain level of I don't even know they I don't even know what the word is that I'm looking for, but they have to be accepted by the people that surround them. Like
Yes.
it's days where I'm off work, I won't tell nobody that I'm off,
Mhm.
and I won't answer my phone because I need that time to focus on those things that I need to do because we move fast in this world.
Mhm.
But it's amazing how people can get on TikTok for 3 hours, but they can't do things to better themselves or find another focus, wasting time doing nothing.
Mhm.
Like what
Yes.
Steve Harvey said, every minute of your day should be accounted for.
Yep.
And that has something to do with, I mean, we all know because we talk and we got God put people in our life for us to minister to and to help and just to be there to support them. But there is the lack of balance
Yes.
in our life. And that's with guilt and without guilt. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we lay down and say, dang, I didn't get a chance to do this today. But it's some of those days when you feel like the weight of the world is on you, that stuff can wait till tomorrow if there is tomorrow.
Mhm.
You know?
Yep. Yep. I think what you just said, wasting time. And it's one thing I used to tell a young lady that worked with me. She was a single mom. At the time, she only had one kid. And she was going back to school to get a certification. And I said, every night when we got into work, we would handle all of our work really early into the shift. And we had a lot of downtime. And I said, so when are you going to do your homework? And she says, well, Miss Erica, I'm not going to do it tonight. And I said, no, turn that computer on and do your homework. We got downtime. Right now, we don't have anyone. Right now, we have no people right now. We have downtime. Do your homework. And she was like, I said, you wasting too much time.
Yeah.
And she said, Miss Erica, you tell me that all the time. Why do you tell me that? I said, because I spent a lot of years wasting time.
Yeah.
And
And
I
time is
said,
the one thing you don't get back, though.
you
You
don't get
don't
back.
get back.
You
When the
don't get
minutes
Right.
gone,
back,
they gone.
period. Period. So, and I said, you wasting too much time doing nothing. And I said, honey, I can tell you. I said, I remember coming out of high school and said, I ain't going to college. I don't have time for 4 years. I don't have time to give them people four more years of my life. And then 4 years passed by, and another 4 years passed by, another 4 years passed by, and then another 4 years passed by. And I said, wow, I probably could be a doctor by now, all these 4 years that keep passing by, because I keep letting the time pass me by. Because I didn't want to put the time in. Well, in order to have something in life, whether it's love, happiness, whether it's not being depressed, you have to put the time in. It doesn't matter what it is.
And there
Even
are
the
no
time with God,
shortcuts.
it's no shortcuts. You have to put the time in. So if you want something, you have to put the time in. I know the world is giving us all these quick fixes, everything. Everything is a quick fix. We got the quick fix to the baddest body in the world. You got the quick fix to add to some hair. You got a quick fix to do whatever you want to do. Guess what? All those things take maintenance. And if you don't take the time to maintain it, it's going to go back to where it was.
Yeah.
Period.
Some
No
things, though,
matter
you
what
can't
it
use a
is.
quick fix because you can't they're not valued in the manner
They're
in which
not
it is.
valued.
I use the example, I tell people like about wine. the best and most expensive wine is what? The wine that's aged. It took time. And so helping people to understand that, you know, even with eggs, the best way they prepare is the traditional way, not thrown in the microwave. We're in a society where we want instant gratification. We want
Absolutely.
immediate returns on investment. When you look at anything, whether you invest your money literally or in other things, it is, even with kids, the way we get the biggest return on investment, if you have children, is the time that you invest throughout their lives, not the intensity that you did at this part of their life and then not the other part. Is that consistency, you know, over intensity. And we don't want to invest time. I would tell people, you know, me, when I got my degree, I was 35. I was 35 with my own 3 kids, with my stepdaughter, with my goddaughter, with a husband who was like a child, working 2 jobs. And people was like, how did you do it? I had to buckle down, I had to be consistent, and I had to stay focused. And there was a lot that, you know, was happening. Even when I look back, I'd be like, I don't even know how I did that. And realizing that that is where the greatest value came, was the word. I always tell people, like, you see parents that might buy their child a car and they don't take as much pride in it as they do when they went and worked and they got that money and they did it themselves. And so helping people understand the things that literally you go through, that's what best equips you for what you get on the other side. Sometimes the blessings that we want, we can't get them because God knows we're not prepared for them. And I've been, you know, helping people to understand that part of it. Sometimes you don't get what it is that your heart desires because you're not ready yet.
Right.
And that's a hard pill for us to swallow when we realize that we're the ones standing in our own way.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Yes. I had a classmate that was in class with me probably 2010, 2011, and we took like 2 or 3 classes together. And I remember telling him, I said, listen, you're not ready for school. And he was like, Erica, I am ready for school. What do you mean I'm not ready for school? I mean, I want to be here just like you're here. And I said, but you're not prepared. You never have books. You have to borrow a pen and borrow a piece of paper. You're not prepared. So that means you're not ready. And that's the one thing that people hate to do, is with, like, when you meet someone in a relationship and you're not ready.
Right.
And it's because you want to force it. You want to force it to make it happen. But you can't force it because you're not ready.
Right.
And you know, you got, and it was crazy is I hadn't seen him in years. I saw him last week. And he says, Erica, I'm finally going back to school. And I was like, really? It's been years.
Right.
Years. And he was like, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I did finish school. And he was like, oh God, I just got to be just like you. No, you don't. You're right where you're supposed to be.
Right.
And we need more people to tell us that we're right where we're supposed to be, and not to make them feel like they're inferior to us because we have accomplished something that they haven't accomplished yet.
Right.
But to say to them, you're right where you're supposed to be. You wasn't supposed to be right there then. You're supposed to be where you are now.
And
God just gave
not
you
supposed to have a degree. Like everybody's not and understanding that that's what makes the world the place that it is.
That
we
is
all
it.
got different journeys.
That's it. We all. But if more people will tell someone that you don't have kids right now because you're right where you're supposed to be. You don't. You're not married right now because you're right where you're supposed to be. So can you embrace right where you are and stop looking and depressed because you're looking at the future and trying to grab at something that you're not ready for?
Like I tell my kids, when people look at situations, other people's situations, listen, baby, your house don't look like somebody else's house, but I guarantee everybody's house got their own set of problems.
Yes, they do.
So
absolutely,
if they being honest.
If they being honest. I tell my kids all the time, stop looking at what other people got.
Get your minds off of other people's stuff.
Right.
Look, I went to revival that Jonathan McKnight had 20 years ago. And one thing he said I will never forget, he said, even a battery needs negative and positive to operate. So you cannot have and enjoy the good without the bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. I tell you, like, when y'all, you know, I got grown kids and I got small kids. One day I was listening to my daughter talking, we were having a conversation about friendships. And my baby was having a fit because a little girl told her, well, enjoy your birthday, meaning that whatever little plan that she got that I don't know, because you know how these kids like to make plans. Whatever plans they had, she was gonna have to do it by herself. And her sister said to her, "Can you tell us why it is important for you to be friends with these girls?"
Mhm.
And I was like, dang, I ain't even think of that. I
Mhm.
should have been more equipped to answer that question. I'm the mama. But for her, but it was something that we needed to know. We needed for her to, it needs to be said
Mhm.
so that she can figure out what is it so important about these group of people that you like. And that goes for grown people as well. And I'm not
Mhm.
talking about women. I'm not just talking about women. I'm talking about mankind. You can have a group of people that you affiliate yourself with. All of y'all gonna be different, but every last one of y'all got a different walk.
Mhm. Absolutely.
The why is always important.
And being
Yeah.
able to accept that everybody has a different walk. You can have a circle of people, but understand that you all have a different walk. I told my twin nieces the other day, I said, I want y'all to stop talking to your homegirls about the stuff that you're going through. They your age and y'all going through the same crap. I need you to talk to somebody who got some sense who's older.
No,
Cause
some of
baby,
they homegirls my age are
20,
still
we was
going through the
stupid,
same
Erica.
crap.
Erica, because when we was 20, we was real stupid. Our
What?
advice to each other was traumatizing.
But even outside of that, some of their friends my
Yes.
age and still going through the same stuff. That ain't your source.
That
Right,
exactly. But it's
right,
hard for people to understand when they sometimes feel like this all I have to talk to.
right,
So we, as older, as more mature and elder, we have to make ourselves available to these young people.
right,
They have to know that there is an open door whenever there's a conversation that's needed to be had. Trust me, I'd have already been 20, I'd have been 30, I'd have been 40. I've been all those ages. So what you going through and what you are currently seeing, I done been there, done it.
I
right.
think one thing that's different that you do that a lot of people are not willing to do that could be necessary.
Mhm.
You're gonna have them conversations whether you want to hear them or not.
Yeah.
Lord, the number of times she told me I was
Yes.
gonna come back home. And this
Yes.
girl, I be like, girl, if she'll leave me alone.
Yes.
But it is those things that you draw from when you're having to have those pivotal life changes, make those life changing decisions. I
Yes.
Right.
think also what's good about Auntie Doris is she just gonna tell you, hey, this is what I did. I'm not telling you it's right. I ain't telling you it's wrong. I'm giving you the best of what I got. Now you take it and do what you want with it. You just can't say you
Yes.
didn't have it. And I
Yeah.
think
Right.
now when I look at a new generation, a lot of times we're not even well, like you can't tell people about their kids, but you just can't tell people what to do. And it's not telling them what to do. You gotta love them enough to tell them some things they don't want to hear, even when they don't want to
Yes.
hear it. That's where
Yes.
true love is. Loving somebody is not just co-signing their stuff. It is
Right.
helping them to be the best person that they could possibly be. And it might be that they're not ready because there was a lot of stuff I wasn't ready to hear at 22 and
Mhm.
25. But when I got ready to hear it, the basis is already there. I didn't have to go and
Yes.
hear it again. I was
Yes.
able to draw from it. And I can tell, we relate and say, oh, yeah, like it came to me. And then I would look back and realize that it came to me later on from earlier conversations, even if in that moment I didn't realize that's where I drew it from. And I
Yeah.
think for us, if we become more deliberate about doing that, and even when I tell my sons, I got adult kids, all my kids are adults now, is telling them like, hey, you don't want to hear this. I'm telling you my position on it. You do whatever you want. I remember Erica told some cousins all about a decision they was making. They was like, I'm 38. I've been 18 before. You ain't never been 38 before. And so
Mhm.
that's how many years ago that she stated that. That's an
Mhm.
uncomfortable conversation to have. But
Mhm.
literally, that's what it is. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but that's what's needed. And with these twin nieces, we are blended family, so they're my sister cousins. But even outside of that, a lot of times and many people are that way. They don't want to come to us and have conversations because they want to do what they want to do. Then they
Yeah.
want to come back and have the conversation on the back end. So now
Yeah.
we're cleaning up a mess that didn't have to be made. And so I'm
Yeah.
very clear of even holding them accountable for that. Hey, why
Yeah.
didn't you come to me before this happened? And making them be the ones to say, oh, because I wanted to do what I wanted to do. Because if I
Mhm.
go tell them that you did this because you want to do what you want to do, you're going to dispute me all day long and say, oh, no, that's not what it
I ain't
is.
what I said.
So
Yeah.
I'll ask a lot of questions and let you draw your own conclusions.
Yeah, I think we all had to have a time, and still will have more time, that we have to fail at things in order to realize that we could have done something better, or we could have done it differently, or we could have said it differently. So I try my best not to judge, but I try my best to give advice as if I was their age, and how I would have wanted to receive it when I was their age. So you couldn't just come and throw nothing at me at 20. You better bring your
because you had too
gun,
much
your
sense.
pocketbook, your knife, and everything. If you throwing something at Erica at 20, you better come nice and silent and docile to give me that when I was 20.
Yeah.
Now, at 47, I'm still a little bit kind of the person that you can't just throw nothing at, but I know how to give it back now. So
Yeah.
you may come at me hard, but I know how to soften up the situation now, where where I was a firecracker at 20 versus now I know how to sit back and say, well, let me tell you what's not going to happen. That's probably how I was gonna say it. Or I may start air snatching and be like,
20. We
first
fighting.
of all.
Look, at 20, we was fighting. It even
Oh
first
yeah,
of all,
it was on. Oh yeah, it was on. But I'm not gonna hold these people no longer. But I promise you, Facebook, we will bring back Girl Talk. This has been an awesome conversation. I pray that this blesses somebody's soul. I pray that it is healing for someone. I pray that whatever the woman was, she 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, wherever you are in life, that you take some time to spend some time with God to get a clear understanding for the process that he has for your life, and trust the process. It don't always feel good, but it's definitely necessary. Watch us on Facebook Live. This is Erica Brown, Voice It Podcast, CCE Publishing and Design. Watch us every last Friday of the month. We are here and we are out. Have a good one.